everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you. Thanks, all of you, for being here, as always. Appreciate it. It's been a productive, eventful week, including in the campaign against ISIL. From the start of my tenure as Secretary of Defense, when I brought together generals and ambassadors in Kuwait, to my frequent meetings with President Obama and Secretary Kerry, I have ensured that this department remains laser-focused on the execution of our counter-ISIL strategy. We will deliver a lasting defeat to ISIL. Doing so will require us to learn, evolve, and adapt over the course of a determined campaign to carry out this strategy. Earlier this week, we were reminded that there will be risks to our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that they face in Iraq, there and across the world. But it also reminds me of why I am so very proud of them. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family and loved ones of Master Sergeant Joshua Wheeler, who will be welcomed home tomorrow by his family, by my wife and myself, who died after assisting our close Iraqi Kurdish Peshmerga partners in the rescue of 70 hostages held by ISIL. The sacrifice and decisive action of this courageous American in support of his comrades reminds us of the dangers that the coalition forces confront in Iraq, but also of the important assistance they provide to local forces as they lead the fight against a barbaric enemy. I made the decision to assist our Kurdish partners after receiving specific, actionable intelligence that a mass execution was imminent. As U.S. Special Operations Forces provided airlift support and accompanied Iraqi Peshmerga, dozens of lives were saved and a significant cache of intelligence was collected. We have now heard from rescued hostages. They expected to be executed that day after morning prayers. Their graves had already been prepared. Not only did our support help provide another mass killing, we enabled those partners of ours to deliver ISIL a clear defeat and prevented them from broadcasting a horrific massacre to the world. Meanwhile, across the border in eastern Syria, coalition aircraft recently hit a key node in ISIL's oil enterprise, destroying a pump station and a site for crude oil production and cash collection. After extensive conversations with Chairman Dunford, General Austin, Secretary Kerry, and with leaders of the coalition in recent weeks, we're ramping up our assault on this critical pillar of ISIL's financial infrastructure. We will also work to disrupt ISIL's distribution of oil in the lucrative marketplace, one that includes customers, by the way, from the Assad regime. And we will continue to work on all of the so-called 9 lines of effort of the counter-ISIL campaign, including counter-finance, counter-messaging, and interdicting foreign fighters. Also in Syria, we continue to target terrorist leaders. This is a significant blow to the Khorasan group, which continues to plot against our homeland by killing Sanafi al-Nasser. Al-Nasser served as a leading financial figure for Khorasan and is the 5th highest level Khorasan operative we've killed in the past 4 months. As I review the pace of recent events and the multiple ways we're bringing pressure against ISIL, I'd like to commend General Sean McFarland, a pioneer of the Sunni awakening several years ago, who I recently appointed as the commander of our counter-ISIL efforts. Rather than 3 generals responsible for different aspects of the campaign, as had been the case, I have empowered Lieutenant General McFarland as the single commander of counter-ISIL activities in both Iraq and Syria. His efforts will be critical in the coming months as we continue to provide support for capable partners fighting on the front lines. In Iraq, Thousands of fighters have now passed through coalition training sites. The contributions of more than a dozen coalition nations have provided capacity to train thousands more. It is essential that more Iraqis, Sunni and Shia, Arab and Kurd, be recruited, trained, and equipped so that Iraq's territorial integrity is restored and the country returned to the full control of its people. As I've stressed repeatedly, we're committed to supporting these partners, but cannot serve as a substitute for them. We're watching recent military advances in Beiji and around Ramadi, which suggests that Iraqi forces may be regaining the initiative. And as local forces continue to prove their mettle and as they prove a commitment to an inclusive future for their country, we are correspondingly committed to enhancing the support we provide. The challenges of developing capable and motivated forces in Syria have been painfully clear. But here, too, the coalition has provided an airdrop and air support for Syrian Arab coalition fighters as they prepare for a difficult drive towards ISIL's administrative capital in Raqqa. This is one example of how we're adjusting our approach in Syria to focus on equipping existing groups rather than training new recruits, though we will continue to be open to all approaches. We're strengthening our partnerships with moderate Syrian forces who have fought fiercely in recent months and hope to advance the gains they've made with our help. The additional support I've mentioned today does not represent a change in our strategy, but it does represent a change in our approach to achieving it. I'm determined that we continue to adapt to get results. So we will continue to work closely with Prime Minister Abadi and his command of the Iraqi security forces. The Department of Defense will continue to support the moderate Syrian opposition, and we will continue to meet our commitments to friends and allies across the region, especially Israel. In that connection, I look forward to consultations with Israel's Defense Minister, Bughi Ya'alon, when he arrives in Washington next week. On Tuesday, I will also appear before Congress alongside Chairman Joe Dunford. Our testimony in the Senate will provide an opportunity to discuss in more detail the execution of the counter-ISIL strategy and how to pursue the next phase of the coalition campaign. One final note, I know that each of you is waiting for the civilian casualty report from General Campbell on the tragic incident. My staff and I are in frequent contact with General Campbell as his team completes their initial report. We want to get this done, and I want him to get it done, but we wanted to get it done absolutely right. And remember, the more complete report will come from the so-called 15-6, which is the expanded military investigation. I want the answers to the questions in those investigations. Accountability is part of our obligation to those who died in Kunduz, and it must inform everything we do here at the Department of Defense. And with that, I'll take